You know, a lot of the problems that we have are actually self-generated because of making others wrong. If we could appreciate others for being different rather than judging them for being different, we'd be a lot better off. You know, there's a real richness in diversity, but we get into this externalization stuff. Why don't they understand this? Why don't they understand that? How come they didn't do this? And why did they do that? The truth is, if there's something that bothers you, it's about you, it's not about them. Because the situation is reflecting to you something that still needs to be learned within yourself.
Mhm.
And the more you know yourself, the easier it is to love yourself. Whenever there's something that you dislike about an experience, it's an opportunity to understand yourself and to grow. And that's called self-realization, which leads to enlightenment. Now, some people are not willing to look at themselves under any circumstances whatsoever. Just will not do it. And they can be difficult, yet you still have to deal with them. And you just wish you could fix Clueless. Well, here's some things to consider. It's true, you can't fix people who don't want to be fixed or who honestly believe that there's nothing about them that they need to look at. And especially if they have these huge blinders on, it can be a real challenge. I read a comment one time, there are no incurable diseases, but there are incurable people. You know, life would be great if it weren't for people. Or people would be great if you didn't have to relate with them. Anyways, I'm being facetious here, but the point is some people can be really frustrating because they can't see themselves and they don't want to look at themselves. So let's take a look at impossible people. Impossible people exist. It's a fact of life and there's nothing you can do about it. If you feel you're dealing with an impossible person, you probably are. Impossible means you cannot win. It doesn't even matter if your point of view is correct. Impossible people will not allow themselves to hear you. Calling them out will usually only frustrate them and make things worse. They believe that they are always right and you just don't get it. Resist defending yourself. They're going to blame you, and you cannot beat this kind of personality. They're called impossible for a reason. You are already guilty no matter what. So speak as little as needed because they'll twist your words and use them against you. Understand that it's not you, it's them. Impossible people are masters of blaming. They have a lifetime of practicing clever rationalizations. They sound so convincing to themselves, they can't understand why you don't get it. Just know that some people are not compatible. Like water and oil, some people simply do not mix. And sometimes there's even a spiritual reason for that. It's easier to accept the incompatibility and just let it be what it is, than it is to try to force something that doesn't have a natural fit. You can try to diffuse them when they're bashing you. I say try because it may not work, but stay calm and listen, or at least pretend to care, because they will grind on you until you agree with them. So you're better off letting them have their way as soon as possible. Then, if it seems appropriate, you can try shifting to a more positive conversation. Just know that redirecting their focus before they've completed their spewing is going to make things worse, because they need to win first, and they need to be heard, and they need to feel acknowledged for their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Twain said, Don't try to teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and it irritates the pig. You cannot deal with impossible people the same way you do with others. It's not very likely you can engage them in a reasonable conversation about changes that could improve their life. It'll probably end up with you being blamed for everything. Impossible people can do no wrong. Guard against anger. Anything you do or say while you're angry will be used against you over and over and over again. Years from now, they'll bring up the angry remark that you made today. Impossible people remember everything you did wrong forever. Realize that impossible people will turn things around on you. They'll accuse you of the same things they do, and they'll have a long list of arguments to support their position. If you tell them they're impossible, they'll tell you why you are the impossible one, and how ironic it is that you're under the mistaken impression that it's about them. They have huge blinders and they can't see themselves. If it's someone that you're close to, you may have to prepare to part ways. It's not healthy to stay in a close relationship with an impossible person. If you can leave the relationship, leave. If you choose to stay close to that person, don't forget to love yourself. Now, generally speaking, you teach people how to treat you. So you may wonder if you're enabling their behavior by giving in to them. You can tell an impossible person to stop doing something that annoys you, and sometimes they will stop. But they may also choose to never talk with you again. And they may hold a vendetta because they feel that they've been betrayed. So it won't change their behavior. In fact, they'll usually see you as being incompetent. Your challenge is to understand them without casting blame or without giving in to anger. Remember, they have their own growth pattern. They have their own life purpose and their own way of discovering who they are. Perhaps the biggest challenge is a spiritual one, and that's to love them in spite of yourself, which really means that you love yourself.